This is brand new, baby. You're witnessing Alien franchise history. That you can grow a Xenomorph without having to kill a host. And I checked. A comic book or a video game has not come up with this first. I mean, David had a bunch of face huggers in a drawer, but this goes around that. So it looks like Prodigy really is quite the innovator in more ways than one, or at least Kirsh is. Maybe Kirsh is, doing all of boy Kavalier's work for him. But I do wonder how fans will feel about this. How do you feel about it? I mean, I think it's very exciting. With just biological matter, very easy to get, especially if your morals are a little lax, you could farm xenomorphs. That's an incredible development. Although, to some fans, and perhaps some of you, maybe the sacrifice of the host is part of the cycle of life of xenomorphs and is part of the poetic nature of the story. Like if you remove the sacrifice from the equation, does it maybe somehow to you water down the entire concept? I've seen it happen. I've seen fans feel that way. And perhaps you're feeling that way right now. But I love it. Also, it would seem that noise that Wendy has been hearing is the xenomorphs themselves. Because when she awakens from repairs, she's drawn to Kirsh's experiment because she hears the face hugger and maybe even that tiny little xenomorph screaming. That's amazing. And little does she know that her brother is part of this game changer as well, as it's his damaged lung from the fight with the original xenomorph in the shipping container in the garage, right? I feel like I'm playing Clue here. But yeah, that xenomorph was saving him for a face hugger. Joe, he's got a heck of a suit of plot armor on him. He's a lucky son of a biatch, right? I mean, wow. I wonder how long this show can keep that up. But his injury provides the excuse, the cover, to take his lung, yoink, and use it for this experiment. Interesting, I think. It's an interesting choice for this show to draw a correlation between Joe's surgery and the surgery on the facehugger, right? With little care for either subject, human or alien, from those doing the experiment. Interesting. And Wendy's right there in between them. It's also very clever within the show and the show itself to figure out that because the xenomorph comes out of the chest and not the stomach, that it grows in the lungs. I mean, that's interesting. I never thought it just grows inside. I wasn't thinking about what part it wanted. I mean, is it because the lungs are, not only have blood in them, but also oxygen? But xenomorphs don't need oxygen necessarily. I mean, that's always been the case in the past. Maybe they do now. I mean, Noah Hawley has said he loves the Alien franchise mythology, but that doesn't mean he can't have a little fun with it. But maybe also the xenomorphs, this is an interesting theory that I never thought of until now, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well. Do the xenomorphs maybe take on some of the qualities or the hormones and the enriched, like whatever's making their host tick to kind of like have a little bit of a mini evolution, right? To best suit them for the environment that they're about to enter. That egg and facehugger don't know where they're going to end up. So perhaps that affects the xenomorph that eventually comes out. All very interesting questions. New questions, thanks to this game-changing advancement that we've just made. So that's easily the best part of episode 3. Talk about ending on a cliffhanger. You're like, oh my God, did you just change this entire franchise? But I would say that getting to know Morrow, I told you, what a guy, is a close second, as in the best parts of this episode. This shot, talk about freaking poetic. Whoever came up with that, the set design, the costume designer, maybe it was them working together. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's just and it's so low tech. Like we just attach these, he just holds these little cords up to his head and they pulse with light, but the light reflects on his face. And it was incredible. And it reveals that Morrow has more machine parts in him than just his hand, as he can download all the data from the Maginot into his head through his temples, but it looks like it hurt, which also I think makes things even more complex and interesting. I love how he describes himself. When Slightly and Smee ask if he's a robot, he answers, "Wouldn't that be nice? To be all machine, instead of what I am, the worst parts of a man." Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what Morrow means and what potentially the show means, as they had him say it. We're not always aware, again, there's like those different layers, what the character is trying to say and what the show is trying to say through that character. So wouldn't it be nice to be all machine? Does that mean that Kirsh has it best? That he's free from guilt, perhaps? Because clearly Morrow feels guilty, because why else would he say he personifies the worst parts of a man? And maybe he's including the machine parts in there, right? That's interesting. As an adult who's long been a cyborg, he clearly doesn't have the innocence that the hybrids do, who have just joined his ranks to a degree. So is he their enemy or perhaps their future? When they see Morrow, are they looking in a mirror? And on that note, in the Peter Pan story, which obviously is very heavily tied in here, Hook is a nasty adult. What the Lost Boys desperately don't want to become, what Peter doesn't want to become, but would if they were ever to leave Neverland. So that's really great. Yeah, Hook, I agree that Morrow is definitely Hook, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But back to the guilt. When Morrow alludes to Slightly and Smee what he had to do on the Maginot, sacrifice the rest of the crew to honor orders from Mother, aka Weyland-Yutani, is he confessing? Is he trying to get them to understand, to tell them what he did was okay? Here's another theory. Potentially, Morrow is testing them. What would it take to get you to do something as horrible as what I just did? I got to tell you, Morrow is an incredible character, a man of so many interesting layers, and an amazingly formidable opponent on every level. I'd be like, I don't know, Morrow. From where I'm standing, you look pretty great. So what would it take to get them to do something as horrible as he just did, to honor the commands that they're given? And they give him an answer. They say they would do something horrible to save their friends, or perhaps even more so, to save their parents. Oh, wow. And as if that wasn't enough, Morrow secretly implants that chip from his finger into Slightly's neck. It dissolved right into him. Talk about parasite behavior. I love a lot of things about this show, as you know. Love this show. Love it. But one of those things is that they don't make us wait for answers. A lot of other shows would introduce a question or an idea and make us wait, sometimes to the next season, to get an answer. But not this show. What does this chip that Morrow put in Slightly do? We didn't even have to wait until the next episode to find out. It allows Morrow to secretly talk to Slightly, a voice in his head, right? And Morrow begins to psychologically groom Slightly to become his inside man. And Morrow knows he has an advantage because he's figured it out. With all their talk of parents when they first met, how does a synthetic have a parent? Or as Morrow puts it, when is a machine not a machine? Well, in this case, when it's actually a little boy. And when Slightly tells Morrow he can't talk about this hybrid stuff, he's like, I can't talk about this. Morrow cryptically and so brilliantly responds, said the child to the stranger. Also underscoring the difference between the two of them, Morrow is making that call from what looks like an adult nightclub, of course, a place that a child would not be. That's just so good. Morrow also uses Slightly's own words against him. Wow, talk about being part machine. Morrow has amazing memory retention. But in their very intense conversation when they first meet, Slightly, one of the many things Slightly says is, everyone needs a friend. And so Morrow says, I have no friends. Won't you be my friend? Morrow also, by the way, references having had a child of his own in past tense. Is that a lie to win Slightly over? Or perhaps he did have a child. But what happened to her? Was there a horrible accident? Did she simply die of old age, like what happened with Ripley's daughter? Because, that's what happens with space travel and you're gone for so long. But Morrow's interactions with Slightly do remind me of Captain Hook, who in many versions of that story will sweet talk the Lost Boys or Tinkerbell over to his side, gaining their sympathy. And yes, I agree, Morrow is definitely Hook. I wasn't sure. He's such an interesting character, and I think we get to know him better than we ever have gotten to know Hook. But I agree with many of you, as you pointed out last week. He's missing a hand. He's Hook! And that's fantastic. So next question is, who's Tinkerbell? I'm going to go with Curly, who steps into the Tinkerbell role here when she goes to Boy Kavalier, aka Peter Pan, and kudos to the costuming department who do such a good job giving him that, like, he feels like Peter Pan, but it still also feels like modern, cool, hip clothing, right? But she wants to be his favorite, just as so often the battle between Wendy and Tinkerbell in the classic story. Who is Peter's favorite? Turns out Nibs is jealous of Wendy too. Both of these girls are wondering why Wendy got Marcy got to be the female lead role in Boy Kavalier's retelling of Peter Pan. Because she was first? Well, as Curly very cleverly responds, my dad always threw the first pancake in the trash. Oh, what a comeback. That was pretty good. And of course, that does start to pique Boy Kavalier's interest. He was looking for a zesty conversation. But just like Morrow, Boy Kavalier here is manipulating a child. The first step to gaining a child's trust, right, is to not only create, to make them feel like they're on your level, right, but to create a secret repartee, to remove them from the group. I mean, Curly thinks she's removing herself from the group, and she did, but Boy Kavalier is taking advantage of that. So it's very scary to watch and to see. But yes, of course, Peter Pan is in the Disney version, which people are most familiar with, is a very positive, heroic figure. But I think in the original story and in more adult versions of it, Peter Pan is also not to be trusted. He always has his own ulterior motives, which are never in the best interests of those he's bringing to Neverland. Very, very interesting. But yes, there are three things that come out of their conversation, which I think are important. So yes, Curly is not only working against Wendy, but she has separated herself from the rest of the group. So we have ourselves a rogue agent. Got to keep an eye on her. Also, she says something very interesting. Boy Kavalier says, how do you feel not being human anymore? And he talks about all the things that she can't do anymore, like eating. And she retorts, well, I can't, I don't have to poop anymore either. And, but I think she says she doesn't mind if it means she gets to live forever. So while it's presented in a humorous way, in a childlike way, what they're really underscoring here is how important it is to the hybrids that they are immortal. That's what defines them. Because after all, why would you do something so drastic as leave your parents and your family and your home behind to go to Neverland? It's so that you never grow up. That's the deal. And I think that they're underscoring that very well here. And then also, Boy Kavalier makes the distinction, the important distinction, that while anyone can be a genius, a child genius, a prodigy, also possesses imagination, which an adult does not have. And that is the true magic of a prodigy. Genius and imagination. And that's what he's hoping, that's what he feels he has, and that's what he's hoping to discover with the hybrids. By the way, Curly in her conversation with Boy Kavalier makes a very big mistake. But again, she is a child, so that's why she made it. But she tells Boy Kavalier that she wants to be him someday. Perhaps even better yet, to surpass him, to be even better than he is. Kid, nobody wants to hear how you're going to replace them. It actually makes you a threat. So lucky for her, Boy Kavalier is distracted with all the new toys he's just gotten. Hybrids and now specimens and more soldiers, Joe's unit, and Joe himself. They're all now on the Neverland Research Station. There are a ton of great lines this episode. Wow. There's this, I think people overuse it. But I think it's warranted here of, writing with the flame. I think that's so true with this episode. Like, I love it when Kirsh asks Boy Kavalier, was it worth it? Risking a decade's worth of work on something new and shiny, because they've been working on the hybrids for so long. Arthur and Sylvia don't get it either. With Prodigy so close to product launch on the hybrids, why take a risk by bringing these alien parasites here? But hey, as Boy Kavalier points out, they could be worth $1 trillion as bioweapons and more. Perhaps Boy Kavalier tells himself that these adults around him lack imagination, as he was just telling Curly. But also, I would say it goes both ways, because technically Boy Kavalier is now an adult, and perhaps he lacks imagination as well for how everything could go wrong. Boy Kavalier and Prodigy, by the way, are new players on the board tomorrow, a company and someone who hadn't even been born when Morrow left on the Maginot 65 years ago. Weyland-Yutani even has a new head, the granddaughter of the woman who hired Morrow back in the day. He calls on a secure line. I love that sequence. Again, this guy so much. He's a security officer. He's a secret agent. He's got all these cool access codes. And they say, the head of Weyland-Yutani says, come in, come home. And he says, I have no home. He's been gone a lifetime and everyone he knows is dead. And she says, hey, that was in your contract. And he says, I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you how it is. And these alien parasites now represent my life's work, and I'm going to get them back. Oh, I love it. I love what a great way to explain why he's so myopic in his goals, because they are the only thing left to define him. We're only starting to scratch the surface on Morrow. He erased all the data from the Maginot after he downloaded it, but that was also after Kirsh read it and perhaps downloaded it himself. So that makes Morrow and Kirsh the only two who truly know anything about these parasites, because of course everyone else on the Maginot was killed. And Kirsh has taken an interest in the alien parasites. For all the downplaying he's doing with Boy Kavalier, which might be intentional, come to think of it. But he told Wendy at the end of episode 1 that a synthetic's true purpose is to study and bear witness. Although perhaps maybe meddle a little bit, right? Maybe to direct the course of events, because synthetics are the only ones truly playing the long game? That's interesting. And that's also a common theme in sci-fi. For instance, in Dune, with not just the Bene Gesserit, but also, even more accurately, the Bene Tleilax, who have made themselves immortal in that story as well, thanks to technology, who you will probably be meeting in Dune Messiah. Synthetics, man, always a problem. Are there no Yelp reviews in the future? How do they keep selling these things? I've never seen a synthetic that didn't ultimately cause a problem. The jury's still out on Kirsh, but it's starting to get a little weird. Although Kirsh does say what should be the slogan of this franchise, look with your eyes. I love that. But the alien parasites, and there's number 5, by the way, that fly creature, but they're only interested in biological matter, being parasites. Like, for instance, the eggs with the face huggers inside only start to open if an actual person is standing nearby. Even a cyborg like Morrow, but it knows there's biological matter there. But that gives Kirsh an excuse to keep Boy Kavalier out of the lab. I mean, it's a valid excuse, and you might even think that perhaps Kirsh is just being careful. But Kirsh, as I said, Kirsh is acting weird, and it's very beneficial to him to not have any real oversight. And he and Boy Kavalier are not getting along very well. Here's another great line from this episode. When Boy Kavalier finds out that Kirsh let Wendy go off on her own, Boy Kavalier says, I thought you were supposed to be better than man, but all I'm hearing are excuses. I'd be like, well, you program me, buddy. But Kirsh is above that. Again, Kirsh plays the long game. He's like, keep it to yourself for now. Get this mofo later, maybe. Nibs is losing it, though, man. Woo, where are the control? Where's the quality controls here? I mean, are there no cameras in her room being like, I think we should maybe check her out? She's acting super weird. Because, being attacked by that eye seems to have really been an issue for her. Although I think other stuff's clearly bothering her as well. Not being able to keep her name, losing her body. It's not working out. But Wendy is thriving. And it seems Wendy indeed is special. Don't throw that pancake away. It's got a special treat in it. I've never seen anyone grab the little mouth of a xenomorph before. Like the way she hooks it. Hook like Captain Hook, but she hooks it. And that turns out to be incredibly effective. That was great. And she manages to kill a fully grown xenomorph, even with acid for blood. She's okay. Well, she's kind of okay. By the way, before we discuss that, Joe, though, I want to point out, continues to impress. I love my boy Joe. I forgive the ridiculous plot armor he's wearing because it looks so good on him. He hotwires the door back open after the xenomorph manages to pull Wendy in with it. That shocked me. I gasped. Did you gasp? Oh, it was amazing. But yeah, I was like, Joe, is there nothing you can't do? You're amazing. But it's not an easy win for Wendy, physically or mentally. I mean, remember, she's a small child that was just asked to brutally kill a creature in a fight for her life. And that's an incredible shot of the two of them. I'm surprised they managed to control themselves and not do the yin-yang symbol with them lying on the floor like that. But they were probably like, we're already overdoing it with the Peter Pan stuff. But I'd be like, but no, this would have worked. But you do have this brother and sister huddled together, human with red blood, hybrid with white blood. Mostly synthetic. That's great. By the way, while Wendy feels a connection still with her brother, she's not feeling one with Sylvia. She doesn't even bother to let Sylvia know she's awake, even though she sees that Sylvia has fallen asleep there waiting for her, trying to be with her. Sylvia can act like Wendy's mother and even feel that she is her new mother, but clearly Wendy doesn't feel the same way. Finally, what was that skin on the floor near the eggs? Well, last week I was asking, how did they get more eggs on the Maginot? They didn't seem to be in any kind of containers. They were just out in the open like they were newly hatched. And some of you pointed out that the franchise mythology has established something called egg morphing, where a xenomorph can cocoon a victim and transform them, apparently alive or dead. So maybe they could take someone a chest hugger had burst out of, whatever. But they can just take, again, biological matter and transform it into an egg. So maybe that's what happened here. But as Kirsh says, damn it, slightly, he didn't say it's a slightly, but he could have. Look with your eyes. You don't have to actually pick it up. I think the hybrids acting like kids are endearing. I think these actors are doing a wonderful job. But I've seen some people online not be amused. So I'm wondering, what camp do you fall in? Do you like them? Do you like the Lost Boys, or are they getting to be a bit much for you? I loved how they were geeking out over the Alien Parasites. Dude, you should have seen it. I can't believe I missed that. But again, they're excited because they feel they're in no danger. And also when Kirsh showed up and Morrow asked if he was the parent that they were referring to, because Morrow hadn't quite figured it out yet, and then the boys, kind of like hid behind Kirsh. I thought that was very, I thought that was not only clever from a writing perspective, but I thought it was very endearing. Does Kirsh feel that it's endearing, right? Does Kirsh feel any parental responsibility to these new hybrids? He was secretly watching them, or perhaps when I think back on it, was he maybe secretly watching that conversation? In fact, feeling protective of them being questioned without an adult on their side, right? It's like, how dare you question my kids without me or an adult who's on their side present? We're trying to get a read on Kirsh. He's very cryptic. Up until now, Kirsh has been the only synthetic at the Neverland Research Station. And now he has others. So I'm wondering, Kirsh seems to feel he has no responsibility to, the humans. Does he feel a connection to them? But does he feel any kind of responsibility? He told Wendy they're just food. But how does he feel about other synthetics, which he feels the hybrids are synthetics. He feels they've lost their humanity. We'll see. It's all very interesting questions. What did you think of episode 3? What were your favorite moments? I'd love to hear your top 2. Again, mine were Xenomorph in the lung and also Morrow with the lights pulsing to his head. Those were incredible. What characters have you changed how you feel about any characters? What do you think of the Peter Pan metaphor as we continue with it? And how are your theories evolving? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.